This is the OTB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
Shackelford in front to honor and serve. Nowhere to go at the rail. He comes outside. On the far outside, here comes Caleb's posse coming hard, and Kaish Electronica, 1 furlong to go. Shackelford is still there. Caleb's posse continues with a powerful rally. They're coming down to the finish, and Caleb's posse, and Shackelford and Caleb's posse in a desperate photo finish in a thrilling edition of the Met Mile.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Down the Stretch. I'm Mark Asano. On this morning's show, well, we will look ahead to next Saturday's Belmont Stakes with a programming note for you. We will look back at a pair of important Memorial Day stakes from New York, including the Met Mile, and we will welcome in a trio of special guests. In just a few moments, here live in studio, Dr. Jim McGlynn, the managing partner of Bloodlines Racing. He's going to talk to you about a couple of fillies he's got by Invasor. Then from New York, we will be joined by Mr. Kenny Mcpeek, who's got a pair for next Saturday's Belmont, an Add a Gun and Unstoppable You. And finally, Mr. Chad Brown, who will saddle the late-running Street Life for next Saturday's Test of the Champions. So all of that and much, much more. If you stay with us for this, our June 2nd edition of the program, which is being sponsored by Bloodlines Racing, where they breed and race quality horses. Visit them on the web at bloodlinesracing.com, and by Embrace the Race, the apparel for the horse racing lifestyle. Celebrate your passion in style with Embrace the Race. Shop locally at the Museum of Racing or online at embracetherace.com. And by Parting Glass Racing. Join them this coming Thursday evening at 7 o'clock at the Parting Glass Pub in Saratoga for their pre-Belmont Stakes get-together, and you can visit them on the web at partingglassracing.com. Well, good morning. Kind of overcast and rainy, so settle in and relax over the next 55 minutes or so. I think we've got a good show for you. But want to begin with a look at next week's show and a programming note concerning our Belmont Stakes Day edition of Down the Stretch. Next Saturday, June 9th, it will begin 1 hour earlier at 9 o'clock. That is due to the early post at Belmont Park for Belmont Stakes Day. So we'll remind you one more time before the end of the show, but mark this down: next Saturday, the Belmont Stakes Day edition of Down the Stretch, 1 hour earlier at 9 o'clock. History was made last evening at Citi Field in Queens as Johan Santana pitched the first no-hitter in the near 51-year history of the New York Mets. And as a long-time New York Mets fan, that was very exciting. So history made last night. Will history be made actually just a few miles down the road from Citi Field next Saturday at Belmont Park? We begin our look ahead to next Saturday's Belmont Stakes with a very close call for Triple Crown prospect, I'll Have Another. After beautifully clean journeys in both the 20-horse Kentucky Derby and the 11-horse Preakness, I'll Have Another nearly experienced disaster Thursday morning at Belmont as he was preparing for a gallop over the main track. In these photos from our friend Barbara Livingston for Daily Racing Form, you can see a loose horse approaching I'll Have Another and his lead pony Lava Man. The loose filly actually ended up going between I'll Have Another and the outer rail, as you can see, a space of only a couple of feet. I'll Have Another's exercise rider, Johnny Garcia, said the runaway horse grazed his boot, but fortunately didn't come in contact with a Derby and Preakness winner. NYRA immediately instituted a policy where only Belmont Stakes horses will be allowed on the main track between 8:30 and 8:45. Now, Doug O'Neill, watching the situation unfold, admitted to being sick to his stomach about the near miss, and I cannot blame him. O'Neill has decided to just gallop. I'll have another up to the 1.5 mile Belmont, and here he is, foregoing any timed workouts in the 3 weeks between the Preakness and the final jewel in racing's Triple Crown. O'Neill commented that I'll have another gallops very strongly, gets a lot out of his gallops, and is confident that his colt is absolutely fit enough to go 1.5 miles next Saturday. One thing I'll have another will not be able to use, which he has been able to use in California, Kentucky, and Maryland, is the nasal strips that he wears. This is just another case of racing. Listen, let's face it. If you can use nasal strips in most every other state, why can't you use them here in New York? And it is not a state racing and wagering board rule, but he will have to forego using the nasal strips. Now, Doug O'Neill is attempting to cover all of his bases. He has asked Richard Migliore to help his rider, Mario Gutierrez, familiarize himself with a massive Belmont Park oval. The MIG will ride next to Gutierrez, and this will be next Wednesday or Thursday. The MIG will be aboard Lava Man, and Gutierrez will be next to him, and they will make their way around the massive 1.5 miles, which is Belmont Park. So Doug is really trying to cover all bases here, and I think doing very well. He also had a nice chat, and a rather lengthy chat, with trainer Billy Turner, who successfully guided Seattle Slew to the Triple Crown back in 1977. I'll Have Another will have one less opponent than originally expected for next Saturday's Belmont, as Alpha, one of the few graded stakes winners considered for the Belmont, has been withdrawn. His trainer, Kieran McLaughlin, said that Alpha had spiked a fever earlier in the week, and although he is doing much better, he'd missed a couple of days of training, and you're not going to get him to go 1.5 miles when you miss a couple of days of training. So, without Alpha, here's a look at the probables/possible starters for next Saturday's Belmont. In the left-hand column, headed, of course, by I'll Have Another, you have the only 4 horses in the field who have competed in at least one leg of the Triple Crown. Doulahan and Union Rags, who both ran in the Derby, and Optimizer, who, of course, because he's from Wayne Lucas, ran in both the Derby and the Preakness. In the right-hand column are the new shooters. Painter from Bob Baffert. Street Life from Chad Brown, and we'll be talking to Chad a little bit later on about him. Ravello's Boy, a Florida-based runner, 5:16. A pair from Kenny Mcpeek, and we'll be chatting with Kenny a little bit later about Edagun and Unstoppable You, as well as Guyana Star Dweege. So there is a look at the probable/possible starters for next Saturday's Belmont Stakes. There's going to be a great deal of beefed up security for the Belmont Stakes. This past week, New York State Racing and Wagering Board Chairman John Sabini announced that strict measures would be used for the horses and their connections who are running in the Belmont. Beginning next Wednesday, June 6th, all horses participating in the Belmont will be required to be stalled in a special secured area that will be known as the Stakes Barn. Racing and Wagering Board personnel from the Thoroughbred Racing Protective Bureau will be in charge of security. Only a limited number of people will be allowed to enter and leave that facility. All the vets that will be in there must provide written notice of the intended treatment for the respective horses. Now, the New York Times reported that there would be additional scrutiny focused on Doug O'Neill and I'll Have Another. Now, O'Neill has denied that. We are in the process of asking John Sabini, the Racing and Wagering Board Chairman, to join us next week to discuss why they decided to do this, the timing of this, and listen, while I think security is fine, they're only doing this for the Belmont Stakes. So if they find this necessary and helpful and productive, does that mean we're going to go back to the detention barn situation, or is this simply an aberration for the Belmont Stakes? All right, we are up to our first break on this June 2nd edition of the show. Thank you so much for having joined us. When we return, Jim McGlynn from Bloodlines Racing will join us in studio as we go to the break. The Met Mile last Monday at Belmont. Very, very fast racetrack, and I think pretty conducive to speed and tactical speed. $1.65 to the dollar favorite, number 1, To Honor and Serve. $1.95 to the dollar second choice, the deep closer Caleb's Posse. Originally, I had loved Caleb's Posse in here until I took a look at the way the racetrack was playing. I still thought he was going to win it, but he was a little bit up against it from that standpoint. 3-1 third choice, number 2 Shackelford, who figured to be the speed. So we will take a look at the Met Mile going to the break, and we will be back with Dr. Jim McGlynn right after these messages.
And the rough. Shackelford breaks well, and he's going for the early lead. Jackson Ben comes up on the outside, and Kaish Electronica was steady coming out of there. To Honor and Serve, and he's steady too. Shackelford leads the way. Jackson Ben's right up and on the pace today. And To Honor and Serve down toward the rail. Here's Saginaw running along in fourth. Kaish Electronica back racing fifth now. 5 lengths back to Caleb's Posse. He'll do his best running later on. The opening quarter, 22 3/5 seconds. So Shackelford, as expected, the leader here down the backstretch run. To Honor and Serve just on the inside of Jackson Bend. And then it's Saginaw back running along in fourth. And it's another 2 to Kaish Electronica. 5 lengths back to Caleb's Posse now. Caleb's Posse has dropped 10 lengths off Shackelford, whose half mile was 44 3/5 seconds. Furlong after powerful furlong, it is Shackelford, and here's the diminutive Jackson Bent right there. Saginaw's putting in his bid now on the outside, and To Honor and Serve is still bottled up on the rail. Kaish Electronica coming with a sweeping move, and Caleb's Posse's getting closer, and now he's starting to kick in. Caleb's Posse swings to the outside for the stretch drive here. Shackelford in front. To Honor and Serve, nowhere to go at the rail. He comes outside. On the far outside, here comes Caleb's Posse coming hard, and Kaish Electronica, 1 furlong to go. Shackelford is still there. Caleb's Posse continues with a powerful rally. They're coming down to the finish, and Caleb's Posse, and Shackelford and Caleb's Posse in a desperate photo finish in a thrilling edition of the Met Mile. The final time was 1:33 1/5 seconds.
This is the OTB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
What would another ShopRite mean for you?
It means more chef-prepared meals to take home and call my own.
Another place to get help with healthy eating.
And another place to get fresh fish.
Another ShopRite in the Capital District, 709 Central Avenue. Another ShopRite. That means more chef-prepared meals, another dietitian, and more fresh produce. Get more choices and even more savings with ShopRite's growing family.
We're all about food, we're all about savings, we're all about you.
Parting Glass Racing, Saratoga's original racing partnership, can make your dreams come true.
When I buy a horse, I'm like a kid on Christmas morning.
Every time I bring people around to the backstretch, they leave with this thing like, wow, how do I do it? How do I get involved?
It's easy to get involved, and there's never been a better time to own your own racehorse for a fraction of the cost. Call 877-RACE-WIN, 877-722-3946, or visit partingglassracing.com.
Whether your horse runs like a champion or an also-ran, it takes money to own a thoroughbred. Bloodlines Racing brings owners together, spreading out the costs and risks associated with being a player in the sport of kings. Bloodlines breeds and races horses with elite pedigrees for a better chance to produce stakes horses, champion horses, world-class horses. At Bloodlines Racing Partnerships, we're about quality, not quantity. And you can be too. For more information, visit bloodlinesracing.com.
Embrace the tradition. Embrace the passion. Embrace the race. Apparel for the horse racing lifestyle.
Welcome back to Down the Stretch, everyone. I'm Mark Asano in Shackelford for Dale Romans and Johnny V by a nose over Caleb's posse to capture the Met. To honor and served, hindered to some degree by the inside post, finishes third, meaning the top three finishers from this year's Met, the three from last year's highly demeaned group of three-year-olds, 133.30 over a very fast racetrack. First guest this morning is the managing partner of one of our sponsors, Bloodlines Racing. We welcome back Dr. Jim McGlynn. Jim, welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me back.
Nice to see you. Every week when I talk about Bloodlines Racing, I mention where they breed and race quality horses. Just a catchy slogan, or is that your business plan?
Definitely is the business plan. I believe in genetics, and I believe that just genetics in horses is the same as humans, and just like an offspring of an Olympian is more likely to have an Olympian than maybe our offspring, it's true in horses also. And specifically with the two horses I have in New York partnerships, their mother, it's two horses, they both have the same mother, very funny,
right.
And she is a daughter of Distorted Humor. And Distorted Humor is arguably the #1 sire in the United States. I mean, he was the leading sire last year in the United States. And interestingly, the last three big races in the United States, the Breeders' Cup Classic, Kentucky Derby, and the Preakness, all was won either by a son, Drosselmeyer, the Breeders'
Right,
Cup, or
right.
a grandson of Distorted Humor. I'll have another. So the idea of having his genes in our racing program is really the basis of what I'm trying to do.
That's very interesting. So on the female side, there's Distorted Humor. On the sire side, you've been breeding a lot to the 2006 Horse of the Year, Invasor. Now, you could breed to a lot less fashionable or, less costly stallions. Why Invasor?
Well, because he was Horse of the Year, top-rated horse in the world, and he gets a classic distance. And one of the goals I have is to win a classic race. If you get a horse that wins top-level sprinting, that's great, but I'd much rather win Kentucky Derby, Breeders' Cup race, but I want a horse that can get a distance horse.
Now, we're about to talk about a couple of New York-bred fillies. In fact, they're full sisters. But before we do that, just discuss the New York-bred program and with the influx of the VLT revenues, why you want to be part of the New York-bred program.
Yeah, so this year, starting in January, the purse structure pretty much right across the board went up 35 to 40%. So now, instead of racing a maiden race and having a purse of $40,000, it's now $50,000, $55,000. At Saratoga, it's even higher. And you get bonus money on top of that if you're a New York bred. That's the big thing about being a New York bred. Not only do you get the purse money, but you get, because you're a New York bred, an extra 20% or so on top of that.
Yeah, owner awards, breeder awards. That's
Yep.
serious stuff.
Yeah, it is.
All right, let's discuss the filly. She's now 2. That you and I spoke about last year, Invading Humor. She is by Invasor, out of Very Funny. There she is. How about an update? What's going on with Invading Humor?
Okay, she is now in training. We sent her off to start training in maybe mid-November, but when she shipped, she got sick, so we waited a couple months before we started putting her in training. But now she's been in training for 4 solid months, and she's still growing. We x-rayed her knees. We x-rayed the growth plates of the legs, of the knees in particular, and that's where the bones grow. And before we really start pushing hard on them, we like to see the growth plates close. So hers is still open, so she still has time to grow. And she's not a super big horse at this point. She's actually kind of small. But to quote the trainer who has her, I don't want to misquote it, so here's my teleprompter. She has a huge stride and a great heart. And when she's asked to go between horses, the trainer said, those horses better move aside because she's coming through.
Good for her. Now, originally, when we spoke last year about her, the goal was to have her ready for Saratoga, but that setback is going to cost you a little bit of time.
Yes, we're not going to make Saratoga. Generally speaking, a horse should be in training 7, 8, 9 months before they're really ready safely to make their first start. So we're looking at a late fall, maybe aqueduct first start. Okay. The horse will tell us.
Right.
We're not going to force the horse. When the horse is ready, the knees closed, we'll continue on. And when she's ready, we'll go.
Now, you also have a yearling full sister to Invading Humor. Again, by Invasor, out of Very Funny. Talk about her.
Yes, this one looks very much like the mother. The mother's a chestnut. This one is a chestnut. And the mother is a beautiful horse. In fact, when she was a 2-year-old, she sold at a sale for $400,000 herself. Yeah, so you can see the horse up there now. And she is in Stillwater, New York. So I want to have a little open house at some point where we can get together. Anybody who's interested in coming and seeing this one is able to come. And also you can see the mother. So the mother and foal are still just off of Saratoga here in Stillwater, New York. So probably sometime in the end of June, we'll get together, possibly late morning, Saturday or Sunday, and anybody who's interested to come and actually inspect the horse is welcome to come and see.
Well, don't do it on Saturday because the audience is,
Well, I'll have this. Yeah. I'll have your monitor on a
okay.
I'll have your show on a monitor.
All right. Will you let us know
Right.
now? Let's let the audience know what, and there's always a risk involved in here, but what kind of financial commitment? I mean, do they need $25,000? Do they need $50,000? Because there's a lot of guys out there like me, who are living on allowance from their wives. So what kind of numbers are we talking about to get involved here?
Our program is set up with a one-time pay only. So we have it that you can join, you pay once up front, and then that's all you pay for the life of the horse. And you can actually get in for as little as $2,800, $2,800.
Okay, so increments of $2,800. What about vet bills and things like that?
That's all included. That's all they pay. You pay $2,800. You only get 1% for that.
Right.
But then you never pay another penny no matter what happens.
But they can get increments of $2,800.
Yes, many people have 2%, 5%,
Right.
10%. Yeah,
Okay.
you can do anything like that.
Okay, let's let the folks out there know, if they're interested, how they can reach you, how they can talk to you about this at area code 802-436-2159, and that'll go right to you. So they're not going to be talking with anybody else.
That's correct.
They're going to be talking with you.
That's correct.
And to view your website, they can go to bloodlinesracing.com. But we'll try to have them call you, and this is exciting.
It is. I'm getting very excited.
These are well-bred. These are very, very well-bred fillies.
Yes, they are.
Well, we wish you all the best.
Thank
Good
you very
luck.
much.
Good luck with the fillies. Nice to
Thank you.
see you again.
It's good to see you again.
And let us know when, preferably a Sunday morning, let us know when you're going to have that get-together, and we'll let the audience know.
Okay, good.
Thanks,
you.
Jim. Jim McGlynn, ladies and gentlemen, from Bloodlines Racing, and we are up to our next break on this June 2nd edition of the program. When we return, Mr. Kenny Mcpeek will join us live via telephone from New York. As we go to this break, the Ogden Phipps on the Met Mile undercard, the 75-cent to the dollar favorite, number 2, Awesome Maria, winner of 6 straight. The main danger to her, It's Tricky, the 2-to-1 second choice. So we'll take a look at a piece of the Ogden Phipps going to the break, and we will be back with Kenny Mcpeek right after these messages.
So it's Cash for Clumpers, zipping right along here. 22-3 was the opening quarter mile. It's Tricky second. And on the outside, last year's winner of this race, Awesome Maria, out of harm's way in the clear third with 5 furlongs remaining. Down inside Juanita, 6 lengths behind the pack. She's all in. They hit the far turn. Cash for Clunkers still grinding it out on the lead. It's Tricky still second. Awesome Maria poised on the outside third after a 45-3 opening half mile. Juanita down toward the bail. Around the far turn, Cash for Clunkers a neck. It's Tricky turning up the pressure. Awesome Maria now is called on for her run. Third on the outside. Third and starting to move toward the lead as they come to the top of the stretch. And then it's Juanita. 6 lengths back and she's all in. And now the field turns for home. Cash for Clunkers. It's Tricky. Under the whip is Awesome Maria. Still back in third. 3/16 out. Cash for Clunkers is still in front. It's Tricky doing her best. Still second. Awesome Maria is still third. Down to the final 16th. It's Tricky. Cash for Clunkers. Awesome Maria's winning streak will come to an end. Down to the wire. It's Tricky. It's Tricky. Won it by a hard-fought half length over a determined Cash for Clunkers. Awesome Maria winds up third today.
This is the OTB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
What would another ShopRite mean for you?
It means more chef-prepared meals to take home and call my own.
Another place to get help with healthy eating.
And another place to get fresh fish.
Another ShopRite in the Capital District, 709 Central Avenue. Another ShopRite. That means more chef-prepared meals, another dietitian, and more fresh produce. Get more choices and even more savings with ShopRite's growing family.
We're all about food. We're all about savings. We're all about you.
Embrace the tradition. Embrace the passion. Embrace the race. Apparel for the horse racing lifestyle.
Whether your horse runs like a champion or an also-ran, it takes money to own a thoroughbred. Bloodlines Racing brings owners together, spreading out the costs and risks associated with being a player in the sport of kings. Bloodlines breeds and races horses with elite pedigrees for a better chance to produce stakes horses, champion horses, world-class horses. At Bloodlines Racing Partnerships, we're about quality, not quantity, and you can be too. For more information, visit bloodlinesracing.com.
Welcome back to Down the Stretch, everyone. I'm Mark Asano. My thanks to Dr. Jim McGlynn for having joined us. And it's tricky for Karen and Eddie Castro. Just kept grinding, and she wore down Cash for Clunkers, who ran big to win the Ogden Phipps. Awesome Maria third. Awesome Maria's trainer, Todd Pletcher. He said it was his fault. Didn't train her well for that somewhat mediocre third place finish. All right, our next guest. 10 years ago, hard to believe it was 10 years ago, he derailed the Triple Crown bid of War Emblem when Sarava shocked the Belmont. He's going to try to do it again next week with At a Gun and Unstoppable You. Joining us live via telephone from New York, Mr. Kenny Mcpeek. Kenny, Mark Casano welcoming you back to Down the Stretch.
Hey, Mark, this doesn't seem like 10 years ago, does it?
No, you don't age at all, but, I feel as though it was 10 years ago. Kenny,
It was 10 years ago.
let's start with At a Gun. Winner of a pair of allowance races, but, beaten pretty badly in both the Rebel and the Arkansas Derby. For our audience, here he is winning his last. He's going to be rallying on the far outside in the gold. Kenny, talk about Adigun, if you would.
Well, this is a really good, solid colt. You know, he seems to be moving forward, and you know, a lot of things can happen to Belmont. After he won the race at Churchill, you know, we talked all along that we thought he needed to go further and further, and you know, mile and a half sets up good for him. We just kind of decided to head this direction before even the Derby was run that day. But he's a good colt, and that sire line's done well in this race. And like I said, the colt seems to be moving forward every time we've run him. So we're here to take a shot at it.
Yeah, Kenny, you know, let's be frank with the audience. How much does it have to do with the very unusual nature of the Belmont? Let's face it, it's likely to be the only time these horses run a mile and a half. You know, how much is it, that very unusual mile and a half, that you're willing to take a shot, other trainers are willing to take shots, you know, with horses that don't look like they match up with the best?
Well, the thing about it is that, okay, the horses that run in the Derby and the Preakness, in many cases, they're tired by the third race. And so it leaves kind of an opening for a Sarava or the Tar that won for Nick Vito the 1 year, complete surprises. But it's a funny racetrack, too, because it's such a huge oval. It takes a certain timing of the ride, which, you know, in this case, the rider of I'll Have Another, I don't think he's ever even ridden a race over this racetrack yet. So he could make a tactical error. Mm-hmm. Or move too soon or misjudge things. I mean, so it's really wide open. I mean, it takes a real special horse to win these three, obviously, but this last leg of it is very tricky.
Kenny, Adigun raced Lasix-free for the first 7 starts of his career. It was only the last 2 times he raced on Lasix. Why the change in medication?
Well, you know, Mr. Anthony, you know, John and Anthony's been in this game a long time, and he and I both have a similar feeling that Lasix is, yeah, it has its place in the game, but at the same time, I do think there's a bit of an overuse of it, and he encouraged me, and this is the first year I've had horses for him, and we talked about it, and he said, I'd really rather my horses didn't run on the Lasix, and I said, that's fine. And I actually won a stake last Friday without Lasix. I won 3 graded stakes last year without Lasix, and we won a maiden race here at Belmont without Lasix. I mean, it's not, you know, you don't have to have it on all of them, but in the case of this horse, we had kind of run into a wall with him in his development, and we felt like we were at a disadvantage without it. Everybody else was using it in the races, the Rebel, the Arkansas Derby. We added it, and it helps him. He has improved on it. At the same time, both Mr. Anthony and I feel like in the long run, the racing would probably be better off if these graded races were run without medication, and we'd be comfortable with that. But there's a higher power, or maybe somebody in this game would decide exactly what is the right direction to go. I know there's a lot of arguments going on right now, but we decided to start him on it, and then we shifted him over and we tried him on it, and he's run a little bit better.
Kenny, let's move on to Unstoppable You, a talented colt who possesses a great deal of speed. Here he is in his allowance victory, entry-level allowance win at Belmont and last. He's inside, in front for our audience as they turn for home. Talk about Unstoppable You.
Well, Unstoppable You is a monster physically. I mean, this horse, he's obviously not got the experience of an Adigun or any of the other horses in this race, but that doesn't mean that he couldn't jump right to this level. He is physically an absolute powerhouse. He's done everything really easily in those first 2 starts. He's trained here at Belmont most of his career. We've had this string up here since last fall, and every step he's taken has been right here at Belmont Park. So we don't have to really worry about whether he's prepared for this racetrack. He's probably over-prepared for it. But, it's a case where he seems to, want to run all day. The Broodmare Star Point Given won this race impressively, and we're leaning towards giving him a try. It's not set in stone that he's going to run, but we're probably leaning pretty hard. I want to see his work tomorrow, and then we'll finalize the details after that.
Kenny's only run twice in his life, a total of 14 furlongs. You may ask him to run 12 furlongs next Saturday alone. Is he prepared for something like that?
Yeah, I believe he is. This is more of a galloper's race anyway. I mean, I think if he's going to get this, and I don't think that physically, I don't think that's a problem. I feel very comfortable with him being quite ready for this race and this distance. I mean, he's all cylinders go, and a good horse makes all the difference. This is a very good horse.
Kenny, is he at his best in front? You did mention briefly the Belmont, normally a galloper's race, but this year, with Painter in there as well as Unstoppable You, fractions might be a tad quicker for the 12 furlongs. Is he more comfortable being in front?
No, I don't think so at all. I think he's just so talented. He went to the lead in those first two starts because he is so talented. This horse will rate off anything you ask him to rate off of at any time. If Painter went to the front, we're not going to be in any speed duel with him because our horse mentally won't handle it. We'll simply be there because nobody else goes, or our colt's simply in a galloping mode. Believe me, watch him train, study his work tomorrow. He's got a huge long stride on him. He's not a sprinter type in any way, shape, or form. And if he can go around there and hit 12 seconds, 12 and change around the Belmont Strip, he's going to be in the thick of it at the end.
Will both he and Adigan work tomorrow, weather permitting?
Weather permitting, or we could push him back till Monday if we don't like the racetrack tomorrow. But they're both maintenance breezes. We're not overly, there's nothing complicated happening with either one of them, even for the workouts.
Tonight at Churchill Downs, you're going to run a couple in stakes. Noble's Promise will try to repeat in the Aristides. Doesn't appear to be in his best form right now. Talk about Noble's Promise.
Well, this horse has been really special from the beginning. I mean, he was Grade 1 winner at 2, and then at 3-year-old, he was in the thick of things. I mean, he made the lead at the 8th hole in the Derby, but he probably didn't get distance limitations. And then, he's won a graded stake as a 4-year-old. We've got some small physical issues with him, but nothing major. I probably should have scratched him out of the race here in New York when it came up sloppy. He's never really run that great in the mud, although he has, drawn a check here from 4 starts. But I think I probably should have changed the shoeing on him on the Belmont race as well. But we got him back to Kentucky after running here. We almost looked at it as a workout, and then he worked exceptionally well at Churchill coming into the Aristides, and we decided to, give him a chance to defend the title in that race. He won it last year, and he does like the Churchill Downs track, and he's a nice horse, a wonderful horse to be around.
And you run a turf filly who I like by the name of Busy Caroline in the Mint Julep. Only her second start of the year. How's she doing, Kenny? Do you expect her to move forward off that synthetic debut?
Well, we kind of got caught in a switch on the synthetic race at Keeneland. I had her she was getting ready for a race at Keeneland, but the turf race was ridden early in the book, and we couldn't get her ready in time for that. So I opted to try her on the synthetic, and she really struggled with the ground. We kind of felt like a decent race, but we're getting her back into her element. From what I understand, Tappett's Flies breezed at Churchill today, so she won't be running tomorrow or tonight. And so that's probably a good thing for us. I mean, that's a nice filly that's opting out. But Busy Caroline is a really, really nice filly. I mean, she's already won a graded stick at Churchill, and should be she should be pretty tough in that spot.
And finally, before we let you go, Last year at Saratoga, you told me that you were coming up with a horse racing app. Well, you've done it. Horse Races Now is an app. Tell our audience, what does Horse Races Now bring to the public?
Well, it's actually a really cool little phone app. If you've got an iPhone or an iPad, it works on both, and ultimately we're working on making an Android version. But it's a racing app that has all the entries of any racetrack in the country, and then you can program into the app your favorite tracks, your favorite horses, your favorite trainers and jockeys. And what it does, it gives you push notifications with some interesting racing sounds that go with each notification, so that you can you'll never miss a race. The only trouble we've had is that all the racetracks haven't decided to join us on a live basis, but we're working on that. We've got about half of them now, and it's just a neat little product. It's got, it was born out of a little frustration, to be honest. I was sitting at home one night watching a show on MSNBC that had to do with with phone apps and the development of phone apps, and this has been a couple of years ago. And when I was watching it, I decided to Google horse racing apps, because the show, it basically gave a tutorial of how to make a phone application and how they would change our lives, and it was a technology show. And so I Googled horse racing apps, and there weren't any. I Googled baseball apps, and there were about 100. I Googled football and basketball. There were badminton apps. It was ridiculous. and I look up, and there were no horse racing apps. So I pursued trying to get some others to do it, and nobody seemed very interested. And then I approached a company about making it, and they claimed that they could make it for under $50,000. And you know what? My payroll's that much a week in my stable. So I figured, you know what, I'll invest in that, and let's see if we can make something cool and interesting. And it's not profitable at this point, but it's it costs a lot more than $50,000 in the short run, or in the long run. But it seems to be quite popular. We've had 15,000 people download it in 8 weeks, and I encourage people to check it out. It's interesting. It's free at this point. At some point, we'll probably have to charge a small fee. Excuse me. But we need to do something. The sport needs a push. We're out there. Other sports have gotten a leg up, and I just hope that this is one of the things that we can make it more popular with.
So, Kenny, it's free right now. Where does our audience go if they're interested? Where do they go to download it?
Well, if you've got an iPhone or an iPad, you just simply go on the App Store or go on your computer. You can log into the App Store and just if you search for it, I think we're like the 6th or the 7th one down. You just click it, install. It's very simple. It's very easy. There are notifications. I strongly encourage people to look at the demo video. Actually, the demo video is on horseracesnow.com, and you could go there to download it as well. But the demo video teaches you how to use the notifications. You can adjust the sounds. You can adjust your favorite trainers and jockeys and tracks and such. And literally, you could be playing golf, and as long as the track is giving us the live feed, we will alert you that a race is at the gate, going to the gate, at the gate, the results, the replays, everything. It's all in your pocket, and it comes directly to you. And, we need help out there. We need people to test it and try it, and we're open to ideas. We're trying to make it better every day.
Okay, horseracesnow.com. Go there, check out the demo video, download it free of charge. Kenny, congratulations on that. Thanks so much for having joined us this morning on Down the Stretch. All the best next week with Atagun and Unstoppable You in the Belmont.
Thank you very much, Guy.
Ken Mcpeek, ladies and gentlemen, and that's interesting. I know I know next to nothing about apps, but go to horseracesnow.com, check out the demo video, download it for free. It really does sound fascinating. And we are up to our final break on this June 2nd edition of the program. When we return, Mr. Chad Brown, who will be running the late-running Street Life in next Saturday's Belmont, will join us. So back with Chad right after these messages.
This is the OTB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
What would another ShopRite mean for you?
It means more chef-prepared meals to take home and call my own.
Another place to get help with healthy eating.
And another place to get fresh fish.
Another ShopRite in the Capital District, 709 Central Avenue. Another ShopRite. That means more chef-prepared meals, another dietitian, and more fresh produce. Get more choices and even more savings with ShopRite's growing family.
We're all about food. We're all about savings. We're all about you.
No matter where in the world you are, the excitement of wagering on live horse racing is just a click away. CapitalOTB.com offers live streaming, free past performances, analysis and selections from professional handicappers, and a simple, safe, and secure wagering platform. And best of all, it's surcharge-free. CapitalOTB.com, the better choice.
Welcome back to Down the Stretch, everyone. I'm Mark Casano. My thanks to Ken Mcpeek once again for having joined us. Our final guest this morning, well, he saddled 2 winners yesterday at Belmont. Next Saturday, he'll be looking for the biggest victory of his young career when he sends out Street Life in the Belmont Stakes. Joining us live via telephone from New York, Mr. Chad Brown. Chad, Mark Casano welcoming you back to Down the Stretch.
All right, thanks for having me, Mark.
Chad, let's talk about Street Life. Tell our audience about him. He didn't make his debut till January of his 3-year-old year. Tell us about Street Life.
He was just a late maturing horse. Had a couple of little niggling problems as a 2-year-old. Nothing serious. We just gave him some time, and he finally turned the corner this winter down in Florida. And I think every race he's steadily improved and matured.
Chad, we are about to take a look at his third in the Peter Pan and last as we pick it up around the far turn. He's going to be last on the screen, rallying widest of all. Talk about this effort, if you would.
I was very impressed with this effort. It was his first time with blinkers. The horse had shown in his workouts he was a little bit sharper with them, a little more focused. And I thought he ran that way. He still was in his normal spot, far behind early, but the pace was so fast that day, I don't think it showed how sharper the blinkers really made him. But turning for home when he switched leads properly and really accelerated through the stretch, and I thought he had a nice, sustained, focused run all the way through the stretch and passed the wire by everybody.
Chad, his only race against, and I guess this is somewhat questionable, upper echelon company, was the Wood Memorial when he ran 6th. What gives you the confidence that he can step it up next Saturday and be competitive?
Well, in that race, he found himself way too far back early, and so far back that he lost contact with the field. And for a horse that's lazy like him, when you don't have any horses around you and you're that far back, you really lose interest in what you're doing. So I just drew a line through that race and made a couple changes. I got Jose Lezcano back on the horse, who rode him in his debut race at Gulfstream, and although he didn't run well in that race, on paper it was a sprint, he gave me a lot of good feedback after the race. Jose Lezcano did, and we stretched him out, and so I put him back on the horse, and I put the blinkers on the horse, and the race in the Peter Pan gives me confidence that he likes Belmont's main track, number one, and number two, that he's looking to run further. So I'm looking forward to running him 1.5 miles.
All right, Chad, today you run Kid Kate, who loves Saratoga. She'll be making her 2012 debut in Belmont's Vagrancy. Talk about her, if you would.
Well, we freshened her up, and seeing that she's 4 for 4 at Saratoga, that's our main goal this summer, to try to win a couple races up there again. So we figured the timing was good to get her started. It's a tough race. In a perfect world, I wouldn't want to bring her back off a lengthy vacation in a Grade 2, but there wasn't a lot available around for her, and she does need a race. And she's training well enough that it wouldn't surprise me if she got a piece of it today.
And Chad, I am quite concerned about your wonderful and unbeaten filly, Awesome Feather. Haven't seen her since early in the year, hasn't had a published work since the middle of March. Should I be concerned about Awesome Feather?
Well, not really. I mean, it's concerning when a horse has another setback and is off the work tab, but she's actually in Saratoga right now. She just resumed training. She had a minor problem after the Sunshine Millions race, and we gave her some more time, and she seems to come back well again. So our focus is really the Breeders' Cup Distaff if we can get her there, and we're going to try. And as long as the filly is sound at 100%, we're going to continue to train her and point her towards some sort of race, hopefully in August is my hope, and then take it from there. But we'll put the filly's soundness first, as always, and if she's not 100% healthy, then we'll probably pull the plug. But right now, she looks great.
And finally, Chad, most of our audience is not going to recognize the name of the next filly I'm going to ask you about, but some of them will. You've got a 3-year-old filly by the name of Pianist who made one start last year at Saratoga as a 2-year-old on the turf. She drew an outside post that day, and as my top choice, she did all the dirty work and got nailed on the wire. I see she's back on the work tab and back to you. How is Pianist doing?
Yeah, Pianist is doing very well. She has had a couple breezes for me, and she's another one that had some minor problems. We give her plenty of time. Of course, it was inconveniencing giving her that much time because we missed a lot of races we wanted to run in earlier in the year, but we had to do the right thing by the horse. She seems to come back very well, and I'm excited to get her back racing, hopefully before Saratoga, get a race into her, and then point her towards some of those 3-year-old filly stake races on the turf. I think she's that good.
You do think she's that good? And how has she changed mentally and physically from last year at the Spa at 2 to now?
You know, even as a 2-year-old, she was a big, good-looking, laid-back filly with a lot of class, and she looks about the same to me. She might have grew a little bit, but she didn't need to grow that much because she was already pretty big as a 2-year-old, and her attitudes remain the same. She's very focused horse. It's interested in what she's doing. She's smart, and she shows a lot of class. So I'm hopeful that she'll turn into a stake horse for us.
Well, Chad, we wish you luck with Pianist. We wish you luck with getting Awesome Feather back to the races. Good luck with Kid Kate later this afternoon. And, of course, with Street Life next Saturday in the Belmont. And, as always, thank you so much for having joined us this morning on Down the Stretch.
Thanks, Mark. Anytime.
Chad Brown, ladies and gentlemen. And you might jot that name down, Pianist. She ran, now listen, it was against 2-year-olds. I fully understand that. But Chad was very high on her as a 2-year-old, and you just heard him say, remember, she is a maiden. She's made one start. He thinks she's good enough to contest those 3-year-old stakes at Saratoga, so look for her in a maiden race coming up at Belmont Park, and then hopefully in those 3-year-old stakes at Saratoga. So Chad's got Street Life primed for next Saturday's Belmont. We want to tell you that the Belmont Stakes Day edition of Down the Stretch next Saturday, June 9th, will begin at 9 o'clock, 1 hour earlier, and that is due to the early post at Belmont. So please mark that down. Next Saturday's Belmont Stakes Day edition of Down the Stretch will begin at 9 o'clock. Time to thank this morning's sponsors, and we want to thank Parting Glass Racing. Join Saratoga's original racing team and join them next Thursday evening, this coming Thursday, 7 o'clock at the Parting Glass Pub in Saratoga for their pre-Belmont Stakes get-together. I'll be there. We will be discussing the Belmont Stakes and the potential of history in the making with I'll Have Another. Visit them on the web at partingglassracing.com. And by Embrace the Race. the apparel for the horse racing lifestyle. Celebrate your passion in style with Embrace the Race. Shop locally at the Museum of Racing or online at embracetherace.com. And by Bloodlines Racing and Dr. Jim McGlynn, where they breed and race quality horses. Remember, they've got those pair of New York bred full sisters by Invasor out of Very Funny. To talk to Jim, 802-436-2159 or on the web at bloodlinesracing.com. Time to thank all the folks who helped get this week's show on the air. Pat Beretta directed, Pete Persico and Dino Contanacci, our associate producer Julie Hoxie, and special thanks to this morning's guest Chad Brown, Kenny Mcpeek, and Dr. Jim McGlynn. Remember, next week at 9 o'clock. So ladies and gentlemen, enjoy your weekend. Enjoy all the racing action from coast to coast right here at Capitol. Have a wonderful upcoming week. And from all of us here at Down the Stretch, we'll see you next week at 9 o'clock.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.